There is a forest in America where people don't disappear. They simply stop existing. The police found their cars, their tents, and even their cameras, but never their bodies. What the last camera recorded still hasn't been explained. October 2026. Blackwood National Forest, Oregon. For over 50 years, the forest had been surrounded by terrifying stories. Campers vanished without warning. Hunters never returned. Entire rescue teams disappeared while searching for missing people. The strangest part wasn't that people died. It was that no bodies were ever found. Even helicopters equipped with thermal cameras failed to detect anything unusual. Official reports blamed wild animals, landslides, or people getting lost, but the locals knew the truth. Something lived deep inside Blackwood Forest, something ancient, something that didn't belong to this world. Most people called it the forest creature. As their truck approached the forest entrance, they noticed something unusual. Every road sign pointing toward Blackwood had been destroyed. Some were bent. Some had deep claw marks. Others looked as if something incredibly strong had twisted the metal with its bare hands. No one said a word. Even Daniel looked nervous. "This wasn't here last month," he whispered. Near the entrance stood an abandoned ranger station. The windows were broken. The wooden walls were covered with strange symbols carved by knives. Inside the station, dust covered everything. But one object looked completely clean. An old cassette recorder. Ethan pressed the play button. Static filled the room. Then a frightened man's voice spoke. "If anyone finds this, don't go deeper. It learns how you think. It learns your voice. Once it knows your fear, it never lets you leave." The recording suddenly ended with a loud scream. Then silence. Noah laughed nervously. Probably someone's prank. Daniel didn't laugh. He quietly unplugged the recorder. "We should leave." Ethan ignored him. By noon, they entered the forest. The trees were enormous. Some looked thousands of years old. Sunlight barely reached the ground. The deeper they walked, the colder the air became. Even though it was early autumn, their breath became visible. Ellie checked the temperature. It just dropped 15 degrees. No one could explain why. Around 3 in the afternoon, they reached an old campsite. Everything had been left behind. Sleeping bags, cooking equipment, a backpack, even unopened food. It looked as if the campers had simply vanished in the middle of dinner. Mark inspected the area. There are no footprints leaving this place. Ethan frowned. "Impossible." "It should be," Mark replied, "but it isn't." They searched the abandoned campsite for clues. Inside one backpack, Noah found a small video camera. The battery still worked. He played the final recording. The video showed 3 campers laughing around a fire. Suddenly, the person holding the camera stopped talking. Every insect sound disappeared. The fire began flickering wildly. One camper slowly looked toward the trees. "What is that?" The camera zoomed into complete darkness. Nothing. Then, without warning, the camera shook violently. As evening approached, they decided to camp nearby. Ellie launched a drone one final time before sunset. The drone climbed higher and higher until the forest looked endless. Suddenly, the video signal glitched. Just for 1 second. The screen showed something impossible. A gigantic figure standing perfectly still among the trees. It was taller than every tree around it. Its body was black. Its arms almost touched the ground. Massive antlers stretched from its head like dead branches. The face? had no eyes, no nose, only smooth gray skin. The signal returned instantly. The figure was gone. Ellie replayed the footage. Nothing. Only trees. No creature. No movement. She looked at Noah. "Did you see that?" Noah slowly nodded. "I thought I imagined it." Neither of them told Ethan. Night arrived faster than expected. Daniel lit the campfire. Everyone sat in uncomfortable silence. For the first time, no one wanted to joke anymore. Then, without warning, every sound disappeared. Another step. Boom! Closer. Boom! The ground beneath the camp began to vibrate, but nothing could be seen. Only darkness. Then, the footsteps stopped. Complete silence returned. Ethan grabbed his flashlight and aimed it toward the trees. Nothing. No animals, no movement, no glowing eyes. Just endless darkness. Then, Noah slowly pointed behind Ethan. His voice barely came out. "Ethan." There wasn't a tree there before. Ethan turned around. A massive
Forest
dead tree
creature.
now.
Part 2. The thing that hunts without eyes. Opening. No one spoke. The words carved into the tree, "I found you," looked fresh, as if they had been carved only seconds ago. Ethan slowly reached out and touched one of the deep claw marks. It was still wet. Not with water, but with a thick black liquid that smelled like rotten wood and blood. Mark immediately pulled him back. "Don't touch it." Ethan wiped his hand on his jacket. "It's probably tree sap." Daniel stared at him. No tree bleeds black. The campfire suddenly crackled loudly. Everyone turned around. For just a split second, a huge shadow crossed behind Noah. Noah spun around with his flashlight. Nothing. Only trees. Only darkness. Yet, someone was breathing. A slow, deep, heavy breath. It sounded close enough to touch. Everyone pointed their flashlights in different directions. The breathing stopped. No one slept that night. At exactly 2:17 a.m., every GPS device shut down. Satellite phones lost signal. Even their digital watches froze at the same time. Ellie checked the batteries. Every device still had power, but none of them worked anymore. It was as if something around them had killed every signal. Then, a low whistle echoed through the forest. It wasn't the wind. It sounded almost human. Mark quietly stood up. "I'm going to check the tree line." Daniel grabbed his arm. "No. If something is out there, we need to know." Without waiting for an answer, Mark disappeared into the darkness with his flashlight. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Then 5. No sound. No footsteps. Nothing. Ethan finally decided to follow him. Noah and Daniel had no choice but to come along. Ellie stayed behind to watch the camp. About 100 feet away, they found Mark's flashlight, still on, lying in the leaves. But Mark was gone. There were no footprints, no signs of a struggle, nothing. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air. Then Noah noticed something hanging from a tree branch. Mark's backpack. Mark was standing in the center of the dead trees. His back faced the group. He hadn't moved. He hadn't even blinked.
Yet the voice that came from him wasn't human. It was deep, slow, and sounded like several people speaking at the same time. It already knows your names. No one dared to move. Daniel slowly whispered,
something was terribly wrong.
"Don't go near him."
His smile stretched
Ethan
far
ignored.
beyond a human face. His lips split almost to his ears. His eyes were completely black.
No.
Without warning,
No. This isn't possible. Daniel closed his eyes. I told you. The forest doesn't let people leave. Ethan refused to believe it. This has to be some kind of magnetic field affecting the compass. He took out bright orange spray paint and marked a giant tree. Then, they walked in a perfectly straight line. An hour later, they stopped. The tree in front of them had the exact same orange mark. No one had spoken. No one had changed direction. Yet somehow, they had walked in a giant circle. That afternoon, the sky suddenly became dark. Not because of clouds. The sunlight itself seemed to disappear. The forest looked gray, dead, lifeless. Every tree around them began making a strange cracking sound. Not from the wind. From inside.
he lifted it again. The creature was back, visible only through the camera, not to the naked eye. His breathing became faster. Ethan, don't move.
What? It's
The
behind
long
you.
black hand
Ethan
slowly
froze.
crawled across the wooden floor. Its fingers were impossibly long, ending in razor-sharp claws that scraped against the old wood. Screech! The sound echoed through the watchtower. No one dared to breathe. Daniel grabbed an old hunting axe lying in the corner. The hand suddenly stopped moving, then disappeared beneath the door. Silence. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Nothing. Ethan slowly walked toward the window. Outside, there was nobody. No creature, no footprints, nothing except endless darkness. Then, no one noticed something impossible. The door! Everyone looked. The heavy wooden door was slowly opening. Not from the outside, but from the inside. Something invisible was unlocking it. Before anyone could react, bang! The door burst open. A freezing wind filled the tower, but nothing entered. At least, nothing they could see. Suddenly, Ellie screamed. She pointed her flashlight toward the ceiling. There, crawling upside down like a giant spider, was the forest creature. It wasn't 12 feet tall anymore.
Their names, every single one. Noah slowly touched the fresh carving. The wood was still warm. Then, a loud knock echoed through the tower. Knock! Everyone froze. Another knock. Knock. Then, another. Knock. Daniel whispered with terror in his voice. Whatever happens, don't open the door. Just then, a familiar voice came from outside. It was Mark, softly calling, "Guys, and wider until it stretched from one side of its face to the other. Rows upon rows of black teeth filled the darkness inside. The creature didn't roar. It whispered, "Fear feeds me." The lights on every camera exploded. Glass shattered. Everyone ran. They jumped from the tower and sprinted through the forest. Behind them, the creature didn't chase. It simply walked. Yet every step it took covered an impossible distance. Trees bent away from its body. The ground cracked beneath its feet. Daniel suddenly stopped. There! In front of them stood a massive tree unlike any other. Its trunk was wider than a house. Its roots stretched across the entire forest floor. Hundreds of human skeletons were trapped inside the bark. Some looked decades old. Others looked recent. The creature is not hunting people because it is hungry. It protects the heart tree. Every human it kills becomes another root, feeding the forest forever. Another page contained a warning. The heart tree can only be destroyed during sunrise. If it survives another dawn, the forest will continue growing. Ethan looked outside. The eastern sky was slowly beginning to brighten. They had one chance. The creature finally arrived. For the first time, it stood directly in front of them, nearly 15 feet tall. Its bark-covered body looked ancient. Its antlers stretched like dead branches into the sky. Its face remained completely expressionless. Until hundreds of tiny glowing eyes suddenly opened across its chest. Not one pair, hundreds. Every victim it had ever taken, watching from inside its body. Then every voice spoke together. "Join us." The sound shook the entire forest. Ethan lit a flare. Noah poured fuel around the heart tree. Ellie ignited it. Flames raced across the roots. The creature finally screamed. A scream so loud that birds fell from the sky. The forest itself began shaking. Trees cracked apart. The ground split open. The creature charged toward them with terrifying speed. Just before reaching Ethan, the rising sun broke through the trees. Its
When the
first ray
rescue
touched the
helicopters
burning heart
arrived
tree.
later that afternoon, only Ethan, Noah, and Ellie were alive. Daniel had disappeared during the final collapse. Search teams looked for weeks. They never found him. Blackwood Forest slowly began dying. The trees withered. The strange silence vanished. Animals returned. Authorities declared the mystery solved after a wildfire destroyed part of the forest. No one believed Ethan's story. Everyone assumed trauma had affected his memory. Months later, Noah finally recovered one damaged memory card from his camera. Most of the footage was corrupted. Only the final 30 seconds remained. The recording showed Ethan, Noah, and Ellie walking away from the burning forest. They looked exhausted, but relieved. Then the camera suddenly glitched. For a single frame,
He wasn't injured.
he
wasn't calling for help.
appeared again.
He was smiling. Behind him, a pair of enormous antlers slowly rose from the ashes. Then the recording ended. Experts claimed it was a digital error. Ethan refused to watch the footage again. 3 months later, a family camping nearly 200 miles away reported hearing heavy footsteps in the woods. When forest rangers arrived, they found an enormous dead tree that had never been there before. Carved into its trunk were 3 fresh words.